This video is sponsored by Sterling Insurance.
Not sure how to create the best design for your DIY camper? Well, keep watching because we're going to show you exactly how to do it.
Hi guys, welcome back to Van Conversion 101, the video series where we show you how to convert a van from start to finish. So in the last episode, we talked you through the steps of how to give your van a proper makeover. So this included respraying and adding accessories like ladders, spare wheel holders, and roof racks. So if you want to go check that out, then there'll be a link on the screen and then one in the description as well. So yeah, this week we're going to talk about layout and how to go through the detailed design process. We have actually been away in India for the past 2 weeks, so the van is looking
exactly the same.
Yeah.
Nothing has happened. We got the van to the stage where all of the exterior accessories are on, but now we're at the stage where we need to have a design finalized. Things like the position of the aircon unit, the skylights, and the exterior windows, all that stuff that's coming next. We need to know what's going on the inside of the van so that we know that they're in exactly the right position.
So at the beginning of these videos, we always do a tools list of the things that you'll need. So yeah, these are the tools that you'll need. There isn't very much.
We thought we'd start by talking a little bit about our previous van and the layout that we went with for that one. So there'll be some overlays on the screen as I'm talking through this, but also if you do want to check out the van tour for our previous van, then it's over on our TikTok and Instagram pages. We also have a full YouTube van tour for that old van, so that will be linked here as well. Our old van was a long wheelbase Mercedes Sprinter, whereas this one is an extra long wheelbase Ford Transit. Actually, they are about the same size. The dimensions are a little bit different. I think this one's a little bit taller and a little bit shorter as well. In our old van, the entranceway was here. So we had a step up and we also had the kitchen counters that overlapped this step area to about here. The shower in our old van was in this corner here, and we had kind of a little bit of a corner cutout so you could enter and exit at this corner. We then had the kitchen units all along one side and a small seating area on the other side. So it formed this nice corridor down the middle, which then led to a step up to the fixed bed, which was in the back here. In terms of weight distribution, we had our entire electrical system on this side, and we then had a 100-litre water tank, and also our water heater and our various other water system bits on this side. So when the water tank was full especially, that provided quite a nice balance because you've got heavy batteries on this side, heavy water tank on this side. The gas tank in our last van was an underslung one, and it was right down the center of the van, about this area here. So again, didn't really contribute to the weight either side. Then
we also had an underslung wastewater tank, which was on basically here. I don't know if you can see that. So it was here on the driver's side, underslung, obviously, under the van. And we had a full bulkhead wall, so we couldn't see into the cab, and it had a little hatch just sort of in this section that you could get through if you wanted to, but it wasn't very graceful to get through there and it wasn't easy. So that's something that we probably will change in this van conversion. We also had a window on the sliding opening door. We had a little window on this panel, this middle driver's side panel, and we had a skylight above the bed in the center area. I feel like we had adequate light in our van. Like, it was a really nice balance between it not being too open to everyone looking in, but also having enough light inside, you know, for light.
And also having the opening windows and the opening door and the opening skylight meant you could get a decent amount of ventilation, which was good as well.
We really liked our previous van layout, and to be honest, we think it's probably one of the best van layouts in terms of having enough space to do things, but also enough storage and everything that you'd need in a tiny home. But obviously we're going to do this van slightly differently because we want to try something new. So yeah, it won't look anything like the other one really. That being said, there are a couple of things that we do want to keep the same, which include the fixed bed. Loved that. I can't even imagine having to set your bed up every single time you want to go to sleep. The other things that we definitely want to include are a shower. We also want to keep the bulkhead wall, but as I said before, we probably won't have the same entrance and exit to the cab area because that was really annoying. Yeah, I think in terms of windows, we'll probably keep that quite similar as well. The first thing that we're going to do, and the reason why we've come down to the workshop today, is we're going to take some measurements of the inside and pretty much everywhere. These are with a view to doing sketches and then later on things like 3D designs.
Will has just been shat on by a bird.
Look at that.
Alright, so we've done all our measurements and Will is, I actually don't know what he's doing now, but he's about to go inside to measure our aircon unit as well. Yeah, we did all of the indents, just general widths, lengths, height, all of that good stuff. But what we have discovered is that we hate this van. No, it's just has a lot of little annoying things that we didn't have so much of in the Sprinter. For example, for the bulkhead wall, none of the stuff really matches up in terms of where it finishes. So this bulkhead section up here finishes a little bit further in than the back of the seats, which come out a bit more, which means when we do a bulkhead wall, it will be very difficult to make. So our bulkhead wall will have to go like all wibbly wobbly up like that. We can do a straight wall, but it just means losing quite a lot of space. So yeah, bit annoying. And then the other annoying things is we've obviously got all of these wires, and for some reason they decided to put them on the outside of the wall rather than, you know, slotting them through the holes where they're supposed to be. So that's kind of annoying. Will said that he is going to sort this out, but it's just going to take a lot of time to, you know, go through all of the wires, decide what we need, and put them in the wall instead. But we'll probably do that when we do like first fix wiring and things like that. The little things, we've got like little knobbly bits sort of sticking out of the wall on this side and on this side, which are just really annoying when it comes to doing like the walls on the inside. And making sure everything is nice and flat. We will figure it out. We're just slowly starting to realise that perhaps the Sprinter would have been slightly easier to do. Kind of missing our old van, not gonna lie. Yeah, I miss it. So we've now finished in the van itself. We're probably gonna head back and work on doing some sketches, figuring out what kind of components we need and want in the van, and putting them into the sketches as well, and then doing a 3D model. But all of that stuff can be done at home, so that's where we'll see you next. Look at this cute little cutie. So yeah, last time we saw you, we were in the van, I think, and we were making notes of dimensions and things like that. Now we're gonna sit down and we're gonna do some rough sketches of different layouts that we might like. But we have cheated a little bit, just a little bit, because we've already done some sketches. We did film them actually. You might have seen them in our...
They're in one of the previous videos. We did kind of a rough...
planning video.
They're in our planning video. We did a rough initial sketch of the layout that we're looking at. We have obviously gone in and taken some more accurate measurements now, so we're gonna refine that design and see if it still works. If it's looking like the layout's gonna work, then we're gonna progress from sketches to some actual 2D designs, and I've also got half a CAD model ready to go of the outside of the van, so we can start putting that in and turning it into a bit more of a detailed model. And the last one, we had the sketches and then basically just winged everything else. So we got in the van and just worked out where things needed to go and did everything on the fly.
And it worked out fine.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things which I think probably took a lot longer because we hadn't properly figured out where things were going right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is why we're doing a good sketch now.
If you caught our earlier video which focused on planning and preparation, we talked briefly about the process of creating a requirements list. This process is also outlined in the Van Conversion Bible, which we mentioned before and is a great resource for planning your build. As we move into the detailed design phase, your requirements list can evolve from basic user needs to requirements for the van, and finally helping you create a specification list. This specification list will help inform your decisions when it comes to selecting components for your electric, gas and water systems. It can help with layout planning, ensuring that you have enough storage, etc, etc. You can go back to this list periodically while moving through the design stages to make sure that all the points are being met. Here are a few slides from our final requirements list. Feel free to pause the video here to get a few ideas. You can see how the final specification list contains some non-negotiable items and conditions which help with layout and budgeting.
So we've done an initial sketch that we think we like, but we're not sure if it will actually fit in the van.
The sketch that we did on the time lapse yesterday, that's about as far as we got. We didn't really do much more than that, but we kind of spent a lot of time just talking through the layout and the logic of it and making sure that it all made sense and making some little tweaks.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just going to talk you through what that rough layout looks like, and then we're going to go in the van, tape it out, and make sure it all feels okay.
This is our floor plan. It's very rough, so bear with us.
I'm going to go back to front just because the main thing that we started with is a fixed bed. We're definitely having a fixed bed in the back.
Yeah.
The bed then takes up 140 centimeters, so that's a standard size double bed. The width of the van indent to indent is about 195 centimeters. We're going to put a very thin layer of insulation in those two indents and then basically immediately make that space for the bed. So hopefully the whole bed length will be about 190.
A normal double bed width-wise, slightly under a double bed lengthwise.
Underneath the bed, we are obviously going to leave quite a big space in the middle for storage, and we're also going to house our electrical and water systems. At the moment, we're thinking that the freshwater tank will be on the driver's side and the electrical system will be on the passenger side.
But yeah, so moving on from the bedroom area, we've got a slight partition wall in between the bedroom and the main area of the van.
Having a 10 centimeter partition gives you enough width that you can put indents in either side of it for some storage or some cool little features, some LED lights, things like that.
On the other side of the partition, we are going to have our kitchen units. So starting on the driver's side, we're going to have our hobs, which will be a 2-burner hob. Under this, there will also be a little oven, the counter next to that in the corner. That'll be where our sink will be. But we're thinking of having a raised sink in sort of a circle. We don't love this idea.
Yeah.
But we love the overall layout that we have. That's where it would end up having to be. This long rectangular cupboard, we're thinking, well, just a wine holder.
Like a wine storage rack.
Yeah, a wine storage rack.
And possibly also a spice rack in there as well, because it'll be quite thin.
Yeah, so maybe on like an actuator. So the reason that we have this little unit is because we're thinking of having these units on slides so that we can pull them out, and behind it we would have more storage. We're not entirely sure what this storage would look like yet. We are not 100% set on this idea. We don't know how we would do it to make sure that it doesn't rattle. There are a lot of things to consider. For the moment, we just have it in there. Aside from that, these units will be used to store our fridge, pan drawer, and also a little larder unit as well.
On the passenger side, we then have a couple of steps that will lead up to the bedroom area. We'll be using these for storage in some capacity.
On the passenger side, kitchen units, there'll also be 2 overhead units as well, and a window.
In the driver's side corner, we have our shower. We're going to be putting the entrance to this facing the kitchen.
The little square that you can see that goes under the funny looking blob will be where our pull-out toilet is stored. So we did this in our previous van. We really liked it. It means that you can use the full shower area when you want to have a shower or just use the bathroom. The funny looking blob, that's our sofa. We really want to go for comfort in this van, so we want a really nice, comfortable seating area.
So the seating area will also be used to store a few things. We haven't quite worked out what this is going to be yet. We're possibly going to have a slide out section which will slide out of the door, so that could be a table for sitting outside. It could be an extension of the seating area, so you can pop another cushion on it and have a nice long seating area stuck out the door.
That's kind of the basic plan. Obviously, we want to incorporate some really cool little features.
Some cool features, some nice, just like design features. We're going to have to work out where all of our light switches and our monitoring equipment and things like that are going. We'll also, on this bulkhead wall, we're going to have some kind of door into the cab, probably in the middle because we're looking to do 2 seats now rather than 3. And we'll also have lots of storage in the bulkhead as well.
So yeah, that's our basic plan. And now we're gonna go tape it out in the van. Right, so we're in the van. Will is just giving it a little sweep. Loli is just roaming around outside. And I'm gonna go get the tripod so that we can put you in a nice position out here. So it has been illuminating putting the tape on the floor. Most of it fits pretty well. We have had to cut a whole cabinet out of our kitchen, which, you know, bit annoying.
One of them's got bigger though. I think this is going to end up being bigger. That's bigger than it needs to be. Anyway, it's fine.
Oh,
We've only lost 5 centimeters.
And then the other things, we had a funny shaped sofa here, which can still go there and fits quite nicely. But we've had to change the shape just slightly so that the space between the edge of the sofa and the start of the kitchen unit is wide enough that you can actually get through it nicely. Everything else is looking okay, I think. What do you think?
So, yeah, so we've got the shower in this corner here. I don't think you can see the tape very well. Can you see it on the floor?
No, you can't see it very well.
Shower's going to be here. We were a bit worried about the width of the walls coming in too much, but it's not that bad, especially because we'll do a nice big indent for the shower here. Sliding toilet's going to come out there so you can have a little perch. I think we might also do like a window into the shower on this wall. Before we start building our CAD model, we wanted to take a minute to thank our sponsor for the Van Conversion 101 video series, Sterling Insurance. Because what's the point of putting all this time and effort into making a pristine van design if you're not going to take it out adventuring when you're done?
One of the best things about Sterling is that they provide cover for a huge range of modified and self-converted vans. So whatever your project, they probably have a policy for you.
The other thing that's worked out perfectly for us is that Sterling offers cover for the duration of the conversion process too. This means you can take the van out for a drive to help you pick up a mountain of plywood, to make sure that your new drawers don't rattle.
Or in our case, to get our van kitty accustomed to traveling with us. There are a ton of benefits to having van life cover with Sterling Insurance. You can get cover for 90 days in Europe or even longer, and they have optional extras like annual breakdown cover and protection for your camping gear.
We've been with Sterling for over 2 years now, and we can't recommend them enough. So if you're looking for an insurance policy for your van project, give them a call or get an online quote today. So this is Autodesk Fusion. It's a piece of AutoCAD software that I've used periodically during my degree, but it's also very intuitive and easy to use even if you've got no experience with 3D modeling whatsoever. If you're a student, then you can also get a license for Autodesk Fusion, so you can use it completely free for a whole year. I'm not going to do a full-blown tutorial on this because to be honest, I'm still a beginner as well. So instead, I can just point you in the direction of a few resources. In particular, there are a couple of YouTube channels that I've been using, so I'll link them in the description below. Hopefully, if you watch me fumble my way through some of this, that will give you enough of an idea to get started. Also, if you do get through watching this and decide that using Autodesk isn't for you, then there are some ways that you can do this much more simply. The main reason for doing this 3D modeling is to make sure that your van layout feels comfortable and make sure that it's feasible and that you can include everything in the space that you know you need to. It's also really useful for making sure that you take into account things like thickness added by your walls, your ceiling, your flooring, plywood thicknesses, so when you're building your kitchen cabinets, you obviously need to make sure that you have that right thickness. You need to make sure that you've allowed space for all of these things in the design. So that's what it's really useful for. If you watch this part of the video and decide that you are maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the AutoCAD software, then I don't blame you. Again, there are some slightly easier ways to do it. If you were to use, for example, SketchUp or VanSpace 3D, then these are a little bit more suitable for beginners. VanSpace, I know, has a ton of pre-built templates, which make constructing a van layout really easy. That being said, it is quite expensive for what it is. SketchUp can be used completely for free and is probably the way to go if you want the gratification of having done the modeling yourself. The first thing that I did was take the dimensions that we took from the van the other day when we were measuring out the interior and use those to create a van body. You can also see here that we've got holes for the things in the roof, like the skylight and the aircon unit, and these are in pretty much exactly the same places they're going to be when we get around to installing them. The next step was using this model to add thickness to the floor, the walls, and the ceiling. It's also quite useful to treat these interior structures as a separate body. So what you can then do is remove the van body on the outside and you can see all of the things that you are going to actually be constructing. What you can also do is split this construction in half so that you can see down into it a little bit more easily. From that point on, I have added the seats in the cab. I wouldn't ordinarily do this, but they do encroach a little bit into the space in the back. So that's something that we have to consider when we're building the bulkhead wall. Then added our roof rack with the roof deck, the skylight, the aircon unit, and the extractor fan that we're going to be adding as well. This probably wasn't necessary. I think this was a little bit overkill, but one thing that it will help me do, you'll see if I can lift these solar panels up in the model. Because this has all been constructed with accurate dimensions, I can use this to help me work out the angles that I'm going to need for the gas struts to lift up the tilting solar array, so that's quite cool.
All right, so there are a couple of things that we've got to do before we actually put elements into the model. And the first is actually figuring out the size of the elements that we're putting in. So for example, we want to put our kitchen units in now, but we don't know exactly the height, width, and depth to put them on the model. So I am in our kitchen, which is actually looking quite clean. And I'm gonna measure up our kitchen units in here to figure out what the best size is to then put in our model. So I'm just measuring from the floor to the top of the countertop, which is about 90 centimeters. And then the depth of these cabinets are about 60. We can also compare these kitchen cabinets to standard ones from, say, IKEA. The standard measurements of an IKEA cabinet is around 60 by 60 by 80. But yeah, so that's something that you can think about. If you are just using IKEA cabinets, you obviously just have the dimensions there already. Because we're making our cabinets ourselves, and we're going to be showing you how to do that, we've decided to change the measurements slightly. We know this works quite well because we did it in our previous van. The kitchen units that we used in our previous van were also a height of 90, but we reduced the depth slightly to 50. So it doesn't take up quite so much room in the van, but you still have enough countertop to do things like chopping and just all of the regular stuff you want to do on it. So the depth of the cabinet that we've chosen is 55. Now this is mostly because we've already chosen a 2-burner hob that we want to use. The standard size of those 2-burner hobs seem to be about 50 centimeters. So you obviously need a little bit more counter space around it so that it doesn't look odd. And then in terms of height, we're going to do the standard 90 centimeters. These upper cabinets here are huge and would look massive in the van. So I'm not even going to measure them. In our previous van conversion, our upper cabinets had a depth of 30 centimeters and were also 30 centimeters tall. So yeah, we're going to just keep those cabinets pretty much the same. That would be our kitchen cabinets, but I'm also going to do this for the sofa as well. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for the sofa. You're never going to get a fully sized sofa in your van. It's just too big. The depth of a normal sofa is around 80 centimeters. And yeah, that's just quite big for the space. So instead, we're going to use a chair to understand the sizes that we should be putting into our model. So in terms of the depth from the back to the front, it's about 41. And then the height is 46. Yeah, and that seems like it's pretty standard for chairs. This IKEA one, it has a depth of 40, a width of 44, and a height of 50. So in our previous van, our sofa area or our seats were pretty similar to that. We had a depth of 50, a height of 50, and a width of 45. So we've gone for a funny shape that looks a bit like this. The height of it is 50 centimeters. The depth at its smallest section is 45, which is quite small, but it then goes all the way out to around 75 centimeters, which is sort of a decent sized sofa. And we're thinking we can get some like nice cushions on it. And yeah, so that's what we've gone for.
Now, and in the video clips that you're going to be watching for the next however long I end up doing this for, I'm just going to be putting the rest of our design into the van. So as you can see, I've started with the shower unit, and I'm then going to go on to add the seating area, the kitchen, the bed, some of the electrical and water systems as well. Okay, we've jumped ahead a little bit, but here's how we're looking now. So as you can see, it mostly still looks the same from the outside. We've got the van body, the roof rack, everything that's going on there, that's all done. But I have made a bit more progress on the inside, so I will show you some of that now. So if I take away some of this stuff on the outside, I can take away the van body, everything that is on the roof, take away the seats in the front, and you can see that we're left with this wooden shell. So this is basically all the bits of plywood that we're going to be adding for the floors and the walls. And you can see we've also added things like the indents for the bed area, and also the indent for the shower, which is here. But what I've also done is I've split this outer body into 3 separate parts, so you can remove it and you can see the layout of the van there on the inside. But we've got the shower in there now. You can see the entrance of that leading out here. And we've also got our nice large L-shaped seating area. And I've then gone to the other side and worked from the back forward. So I've added in the bed at the correct width, and also added in the bed beams and the slats. And then I've added in this partition here, which is going to split up the living area from the bedroom area. And now, yeah, I'm going to go through and show you how I would make the kitchen units. You can see we've got a decent amount of space here where we're going to put the L-shaped kitchen and also a couple of steps going up to the bed.
This process did take a long time. Adding features like drawers, kitchen appliances, gas, water, and electrical components might seem like overkill, but by including the correct dimensions now, we'll hopefully save a lot of time later when we get around to building the cabinets and the internal structure. Creating a model like this also forces you to decide early on where everything's going to fit, and helps you narrow down what you need to buy. For example, designing our kitchen in this way means we need a corner sink and a set of front to back hobs. Most of these hobs are at least 500mm deep, so that gives us a minimum size for this end unit. As we mentioned earlier, there are definitely easier ways to create this 3D model, but I'd recommend persevering with Fusion for a while because it really does get easier the more you use it. To give a very brief summary of the process, creating a model typically begins with a 2D sketch, which you can create on any flat surface or plane. You can use tools like line, rectangle, circle, and arc to define the basic geometry of the shape. Once the sketch is complete and fully constrained, it can be turned into a 3D body, using features like extrude, which pulls the sketch into a 3D form, or revolve, which spins the sketch around an axis to create a circular form. After generating the 3D body, you can refine it with tools such as shell, which hollows out the object, and fillet, which can be used to add curvature to the edges. You can even add colour and texture via the appearance library. Lastly, if you really want to, you can add joints to allow components to slide or rotate past one another, and even create a little animation to show off your design.
So we've finished the model now, which is amazing. And we've just come down to the workshop to do a final taping and then go through everything. All right, so we've cleared out the van and we've got all of our different tapes, and now we're gonna tape in our final design, or hopefully final design. We've taped everything down now and we're going to go through exactly what it looks like. We've got this funny looking blob here, which will be our sofa. I'll just explain some of the features that are going to be around this area. So we have this little section here at the front. The top part of the seat will pull out and it will either be a standing table outside or you can extend the sofa out. My vision is lounging in a really pretty place with the door open, just like out in nature. The bottom of this seat, you've obviously got all of this space back into the cab. So we were initially going to do a really big drawer, but we've made that slightly thinner so it actually fits in this space and it will pull out quite far, and we can either use it for shoes or other types of storage. This back corner will house our composting toilet, which will slide back into our shower area. And then this front section here will have other types of storage again, such as laundry. Walking through, we have our shower area on this side. The tray size that we're going to be using is 900 by 700. However, we are cutting it down just slightly. Most shower trays will have a lip around the edge, which is bigger than it needs to be. That's where we'll be cutting it off from. We have the shower over here, some indents on this side, and the pull-out toilet, obviously, which comes into here. The indents will be used to store shower products. On this wall, we'll have some kind of cabinet door, which will go up into our bulkhead storage. In the cab itself, we're getting rid of the middle seat, and then there will be a door from the main section into the cab area in the middle there.
So this is our kitchen space. The first unit here is quite a small one, that's 400mm wide. That's going to have our 2-burner gas hob on top, a small electric oven underneath, and then 2 drawers for pots and pans and some food storage. The reason for this setup is that we do still want to have gas hobs for cooking. I think they work way better and don't use any electricity, so you can use them off-grid pretty much as long as you want. However, we do have an electric oven this time around. So here are a few other options that we considered. We've had a gas oven before, and because they're small and designed for camper vans, they don't actually cook very well. The flame just comes up the back. So we thought that an electric oven with a few different modes, like an air fryer, a toaster, and a grill, would make more sense, especially because in this van, we're gonna have the electrical system to support it. In this corner unit here, we're gonna be having our sink. We did kind of flip-flop between having an undermounted or a raised sink. I think we're gonna go for undermounted now, but we're gonna have a look at the options and see what we can get. The raised sinks seem to be mostly made for bathrooms, and they're also made out of pretty heavy materials. So I think an undermounted one is gonna work better in our van. We'll have a swiveling tap here with a pull-out hose, so you can use the water out the window if you want to, if you're washing off boots or surfboards, things like that. The window is gonna be right in the corner of this panel here. And that's a Safari opening window, so you can let lots of light into the van. Up here will be 3 cabinets, which we'll use to store extra food. There's a small unit that's going to be here. The slightly tricky thing about having a corner kitchen is that you can't necessarily have drawers which are going to pull out in front of each other, unless you've got flush mounted drawer handles, which is something that we're going to do. We are able to have a drawer here that's about 500mm high. That's going to house the bin. And then above that, because you can't pull anything out in front of the oven, basically we've not entirely decided what this top section is going to be. We do know that we're going to have a small pop-up actuator cabinet, which I think will look really cool. This weird looking cabinet here is a feature that we're really excited about. This front part will mainly house our fridge. That will come up to around here, and then we're going to have 2 drawers above that for plates and cutlery. The special thing about this is that we're going to have this whole unit on runners. When you want to, you can pull the whole thing out, and you can then access this back section from here. The back section is going to be made up of extra clothes storage. We've not decided yet whether this is going to be drawers or hanging space, but what it will do is make use of this space under the bed that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get to.
So here we have the steps up to the bedroom area. This one is just a little one that you can open from the top and there's storage inside. We have a second step here, and it's actually about this height, so it can also be used as a seat. And there's space in between here to have one long pull-out drawer, which uses the space in the garage again. And above that seat, there's also a space for another really long pull-out drawer, which uses, again, the space in the garage. These will probably both be for clothes. This little space here will be for the outlet for our gas heater. Between our kitchen and the bedroom, we have a 10cm partition wall. This is just to keep the spaces separate. We did this in our last van and it worked really well. It also allows for things like indent. We'll have one indent on the kitchen side and then another indent on this side in the bedroom area. We can put things like books, charge phones, random bits like that. Like in our previous van, the bed will be raised by about 1 meter. We'll have indents on the side so that we utilize the full width of the van. And then same as last time, we're going to have a mini cinema, so we'll have a projector screen and a projector. So we're sitting in what would be our garage space, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to be in this area.
As we mentioned before, we've got the clothes storage which comes back into the garage. So that's made up of the pull-out unit in the middle and the 2 big drawers that are coming down this side. The space behind the drawers here on the passenger side is going to be used to house our electrical system. We are most of the way through planning our electrical system now, but you don't need to have finalised it at this point. You just need to make sure that you're leaving enough space. Here are some very rough examples of the space that you would need to leave depending on the size of your electrical system.
On the opposite side to our electrical system, which is the driver's side, we're going to be having our fresh water tank. We're thinking of making it around 100 litres, so we've left space for that. Our wastewater tank will be underneath the van. We're not entirely sure exactly where it will be. It will just depend on where the space is underneath the van. And then our LPG gas tank will also be underslung, and it will probably be in the middle at the back if there's space there again.
There is.
Okay. Well, that's great. And yeah, that brings us on to a very important point.
You want to make sure that your van build has good weight distribution. This usually means putting the electrical system on the opposite side to your water tanks. So when our 100 litre water tank is full, that's going to weigh 100 kilograms, which is roughly the same weight as our full electrical system.
After taping it out for a second time and going through it, we're pretty happy with the design. Obviously, there will be small changes, there will be things that just won't work. So yeah, we are pretty flexible.
We've identified a couple of potential problem points, so we're going to just go back and refine the model. But because we're happy with the layout, that was the main part, we can now start progressing with the build, and
yeah.
I'm sure we'll come across a few of those problems as we go.
We've talked about this a couple of times, but in our last build, we didn't do quite as thorough a model, and we realised how important it was to do that. So the reason why we've spent quite a bit of time on this section, and we feel that other people should too, is because it kind of sets you up for the rest of the build.
Even if you spend 2 weeks doing your design, you're going to save a lot more time when you actually come to build it.
The most important part at this stage was to have our layout finalised and to start choosing some components. So we haven't done things like colour scheme or looked at materials. That will come a bit later on, so it's completely fine if you haven't done that either.
We do have some ideas, but I think this video is going to be a bit long.
I think it's going to be earthy. Is that even I don't even know if that makes sense, but if you
Natural.
get me, you
lots
get
of
me.
plants.
Yeah.
Think the inside of a fernery.
Think the inside of a jungle. But yeah, I think that's it. If you like our layout, if you don't like our layout, then let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe as well. You can click the little bell to be notified when we upload. We understand it's been a bit spotty.
We're going to try and get back to a regular posting schedule. We've been away in India, we've had family things going on.
And we wanted to make sure that this layout video was really good.
Yeah.
And our layout was pretty solid.
The next Van Conversion 101 video is going to be about installing windows, skylights, fans, aircon unit, all of that stuff.
Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.